Hello, welcome back, and finally, we have finished the Dandelion Dynasty. It's a big, thick, chunky boy, 1,047 pages in this last book, but we did it. We're excited to talk about it. We have feelings. They're mixed. So some way positive, some not even way negative, just thoughts. We have thoughts, and
We
we
have
want to share
we have
them with
thoughts.
you, our people.
Thoughts and
Um,
feelings, thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts, thoughts and feelings. Again, we got to start off with my favorite part. We're going to judge this book by its cover. Again, this is the 10th anniversary edition, so keep that in mind because I think the first set is boring. I think it's okay. It doesn't pull me in though. This pulls me in. Also, I just realized those are zombie berries.
Yeah, same with me. I didn't know those. I didn't notice that either. Same with me as the other ones. The 10th anniversary and I don't know what the special edition ones are called. Maybe just special
I think
edition.
there's first off, not setting it here because ghosts push it over, and
Uh,
I'm sick of the ghosts. So we're
It
just gonna
happens every time.
set it.
Literally every time. It's impossible.
Somebody send me some sort of 3D printed book stand or something. I have my headphone stand that I could put it on, but it just slides right off. I need something slanted up, not down.
That's crazy that both of us have 3D printers and could just 3D print a book stand.
I just every time I think about it, I forget. Anyway,
Same feelings about the cover. The originals, meh. The special editions and the 10th anniversary, meh.
yeah. And broken bindings, great use of purple. Sounds weird. Great use of purple.
If you want to spend
Look 'em up.
$1,000, you can buy it online.
They're only like 400 now. Okay. They're only 400. But yeah, this is book 4. Ken Liu, this is our first series that we read by him. He has other books and he actually just came out with a book. I think it's All That We See or Seem or something like that. Dakota's trying to focus it. All That We See or Seem. Look at me memorizing shit.
You were so right.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi book. I don't really know much about it, but it looks good. I'm excited to get into it at some point in our lives. But we're here to talk about the Dandelion Dynasty.
It'll be really
Um,
interesting to immediately tangent before we've actually gotten to any content to see if we like how we feel about his sci-fi, because I feel like my prediction is that I'm going to like his sci-fi a little more than I like his fantasy.
See, I might disagree, but I think there's a lot to talk about there. But I think we'll talk about this, and then maybe we'll either in this video or another one talk about the series as a whole. Probably just do it in the same video at the end. Because I feel like this is one of those series that you read book by book basis and you judge it book by book. But I think the overarching, the way it was
Yeah.
put together, overarching, whatever it is,
We got to
really,
judge the whole picture.
yeah. So we'll get into that. But for now, let's get into well-developed characters. Are these characters well developed for you, Dakota?
I took a lot of
What are you
highlights.
sighing at?
I'm sighing because of what I have to say.
I feel like, are we about to disagree right off the rip?
No, we're not disagreeing. We're agreeing. I'm reluctantly agreeing. I'm agreeing in a way that disappoints me about myself.
Interesting.
His development of Gia, I think, is a masterclass in character development. And I hate her with every fiber of my being. And she's an awful human being.
Can't wait.
But I think she's a masterclass in character development.
You were so right. You really are.
And I have a lot of highlights specifically about Gia's story that I highlighted because we haven't even started, so we might as well really burn our time in the very beginning here.
There you go.
All right.
Dakota's gonna read to us. Everyone tune in. Papa's
Tune
reading.
in now. Firo, Firo, she lamented. Why did it have to end this way? You were so clever, so brave, so compassionate. Yet you were not wise enough, not ready to wield the grace of kings. You didn't give me enough time. I couldn't trust you. This new rebellion from beyond the grave, was it really only Soto's idea? So that was the first one. I'll read them all and then we'll talk about it. The second,
These are kind of
just a
towards
few.
the end.
Yeah, they're all towards the end because that's when I did my most physical reading. Was at the end. Oh,
Well, Dakota finds this.
The next one.
You did find it? All right,
Yeah.
go right in.
So this one, I'm gonna give like a little context. The people of Dara must not ever suffer again as they have before, not at the hands of great lords wielding the ambition of nobles, not at the hands of invaders dedicated to the courage of brutes. And this is what I highlighted. But what about a tyrant who threatens the very system of power, channeling by standing outside it, who arrogates to herself a deadly force bound only by personal loyalty, who grips the grace of kings and will not let it go? What about me? And then my last one is unrelated. Those were the Geo ones that I had.
I think just compounding off what you're saying, we hate Gia, right? She's just the most annoying character ever. She does things that are so stupid. She is the perfect character because she is like the worst villain, but she's actually like the best protagonist for Dara.
Yeah.
Like literally
I think she's actually the
encompasses
protagonist.
the whole theme of the fourth book and part of the third was why am I not focused in? There we go. The whole theme of the fourth and part of the third was this mutage or whatever. It's basically fuck everything else for the greater good.
Yep.
Like your family, your friends, your house, your dog, your cat, your lizard, fuck them all.
Yeah,
As
how did you define it in your what was your headcanon for mutage?
what do you mean?
What was the definition of it to you? So like
Like what
mine,
I said, greater good. Everything else doesn't matter as
yeah,
long as like
mine was duty. Like you always have to do your duty above all.
I could see that.
Like
It depends
like
though, because if a soldier's saying that, that's like orders. It's like following orders no matter what because of your blah blah said. It's
that's
like,
true.
but that's the problem with, and that's
I
the
think
problem
greater
with this
good's
whole
better.
thing is that it depends on like if you're a moralist or a fluxist or like how you view the world because you taught like greater good is going to mean different things to you depending
Yeah.
on what like philosophy you follow. But she's the perfect character. And I think the this character Ken Liu in general, I feel like is a absolute brilliant writer.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
He's
The
brilliant.
world building, the characters, how everything connect like characters from the very beginning, like he has to have some ridiculous notes, like with the way everything comes together. And I think it's fantastic. And I have negative things to say encounter to this later on, but just from a character standpoint, it's just peak. These
Yeah,
are
see,
fantastic
Gia
characters.
is I think she's literally a masterclass in writing a character. She sells herself. She knows that the vision that she has that she needs to create, she has to become a bad character. She has to fully embrace no if ands or buts, no room for love, no room for letting a few people know what she's planning. She knows she has to fully embrace it to the point where what I was saying in book 3, which is I think G is bad and is like hiding under the guise of like, I'm going to do this for the continent. Nope. She knows she's bad. And what I was just reading is that she gets to the point where she's like, great, I did it. And now I have to acknowledge that I am one of the problems and they need to put me down too. I need to be taken out because I'm part of the problem.
But I think her whole point was Dara isn't good enough and will not be able to run on its own facilities until I realize mentally I'm the problem. Once I see that like I'm the issue, Dara's fine. And it's crazy because I feel like she, at least in all of her setup up until like 50% of this book, we know like she's making errors, but even her errors seem like rights at the end. Like it ends up working out like in her favor. Cause even there's some characters too that like they just pissed me off the way that they acted. I'm like, this is so irritating, but like it's so true to how
To
they
their
act
character
to their character, like a Firo,
to the end.
irritating as hell. Um, I'm gonna butcher the name. It was like Kutanovo or whatever, like
Kutan
the
Robo.
hardliner. Yeah, she irritating as hell. Like, but she was like, "This is the way. This is what," and she was like dead set on. And all of these like faults were not a fault of like the writing. It was a fault of the character, and they followed their paths like
Yeah.
to the very end. And
It's
it just
it's a sign of top tier writing that I'm so drawn into the character's flaws and problems that it causes me to have an emotional response.
yeah, and in my note too, I wrote, I really don't like a lot of the choices the character made and
Yeah.
where they ended up, but they make perfect sense
Yep.
for where they ended up. I don't think there's a character I can think of where I was like, that doesn't really sound like the way that character went.
Yeah.
Like,
It was
and I tried to
frustrating
look
as
for
hell.
examples at the end. I can't think of any.
It was frustrating as hell because as a reader seeking a story, I was really upset with how all the 99% of the characters' stories turned out. I
Hmm.
didn't love it. I didn't love how these characters' stories ended, but all
But
of their stories,
it's different than, you know what this reminded me of was First Law because we hated where the
yeah,
characters
that's
ended
a
up at the end
really,
of that.
really good point.
But the difference was these ones made sense.
Yeah.
The other characters, it didn't make sense for the character, kind of made
It
sense to the
was
world,
it
but
was
it
that
didn't.
the yeah, in the Ooh.
The
I've got a.
juxtaposition
I
here
could feel
is
a.
crazy.
I've got a rant coming on. It's because I think that Ken Liu and his character development, he used character development. Oh, I have so many things to say. I think they actually use character development the same way. And one of them did it with the characters through natural character development, and another one did it by blowing up the character development. And I think Ken Liu
That's a good point.
showed us he further enforced the themes that he was drawing out over the course of 4 books by making these characters end up in a place that entirely made sense to their development. He didn't sacrifice their development and their bad decisions and their flaws on the altar of a happy ending. Gia got to where she deserved. All of these characters ended in places that made total sense for Dara and for their character development. And I think that on the flip side, in First Law, his whole point was that try all you want. No one's going to get anywhere. Nothing changes. Nothing gets better. And so I think he used, you have things to say.
I was gonna wait till your rant was done.
I think he used his character's development and blew up his character development to show you that, like, at the end of the day, humankind is humankind and will submit to human nature. But it made us sad. It frustrated me because we did see this whole progression of these characters growing and changing, only for at the very end, kind of rolled all that back and was like, nah, nothing changes.
Yeah, I think we saw like a rolling tide of compound interest in this Dandelion Dynasty. Like thematically, character development, like just world progression, everything was always moving forward. And even when we were moving back in like a flashback, the little snippets that we got were pulled to the present day and used to further something. Everything was used to further something. Nothing was, and I hate,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm going to retract that. The third book had some problems where I just feel like they were using things to,
Everything was used to further something. Restaurant Simulator was used to further.
it was everything was used for something, even though like, okay, it was extremely drawn out in the third book. I'm going to say this again at the end. This series would have been, I feel like, damn near perfect from just something different that we've read, like different style of writing and just peak themes, character develop, like use of characters intertwined with the themes. If we didn't have this third book, I feel like this would have been almost a banger series.
Yeah.
The third book really stalled this thing for me.
Yeah. Me too.
But we'll get to that later on.
We'll get
But I
there.
feel like
All that to
the
say,
characters overall,
all
just
those rants to say that the character development, I feel like everywhere we score this as a 1, we're going to say this is probably the best a book has ever done in this category.
yeah. I'm trying to think of something that did it on the problem is there are books that do it really well that we've read, but I don't know to this scale. But the problem is, do they get more or less points because of how long-winded it was? But I feel like it works with this writing style. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to knock points because it was long, because it was like slow at points, because it was good. It was juicy nuggets of development. Everything was developing. Ara, the themes, the story, everything came full circle.
It did.
I don't know. I
You
don't
said
know
that
what
in the
else to
third
say.
book. You were like, he's going to wrap everything up. And I was like, I don't know. The third book was
You could tell
rough.
with how good of a writer he is. Like, and I've never written really anything at all. So like I have no ways to judge except from a reader standpoint. And I know that this is like objectively just peak writing. It's so good.
It's really good. This is it's my, anyways, character
I want to
development.
keep talking about the characters.
We could talk about each of these,
We
each of the categories we gave a 1, we could probably talk about for a whole hour.
Each character could almost take, like, if we like really delved in.
We could look at,
you know who I do want to talk about real quick was Thera.
that's what I was just about to say.
Her shit pissed me off. So many like bullshit happened with her, and I was so upset for her because it's like it makes sense, but damn, she's just getting kicked in the nuts left and right. The ending, I teared. I was like, you know what? If any character deserves this, it's you. Comes back, meets the love of her life again, and is reunited. And I think that my initial predictions were that before this whole story, like before I read this book, once we got into the beginning, I'm like, Fyro and Gia are gonna fight. There's gonna be this huge civil war, and there's gonna be huge calamity. Thera's gonna come back and like bring like an army of her people back and stabilize everything. I was
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
But I was like, if any character's gonna do it, it's Thera. Also, if I do have to pick a character, I think kind of had like if I had to pick a character that had a little bit of like wishy washy with the way I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know if this makes sense for you. It's Zomi.
Yeah.
She's so smart, and then she'll do something. I'm like, what are you doing?
And
But she,
it made perfect sense for her character
it
development because you
did,
know what her
it
flaw was?
did.
You know, remember what her flaw was? That really connected all of her bad decisions? She didn't
No.
have an understanding of the heart. She was
Oh yeah,
really
well
head
Gia pointed
smart.
that out,
She
and
was really
Gia
head
pointed
smart,
that
and Gia
out.
pointed out. So she makes these decisions. She's wishy washy because she didn't understand her heart or the hearts of people around her.
And well, I think Luan pointed that out too when he was first
Follow the thread,
to be a
follow
Jedi.
the themes.
It's you know what I do want, and I keep saying I'm going to bring this up later. I think almost every book we talk about, I'm like, you know what? The more I think about it, the more angry I am, and the less I like it. This book, the more I think about it,
The more I
the
like it.
more I enjoy the series
Yeah.
overall. Like I think this will come back in lasting impact. I think that this is a series I won't forget for a long time.
Yeah, you really have to be able to get to the end of this and look at it as a big picture.
Which we'll talk about. Stick around, kids.
Stick around.
We have candy.
Dig in. We've gone through one category.
Yeah, 20 minutes later.
All right, originality and creativity.
I mean, this category, I actually have nothing to say. I mean, I feel like storytelling and it just everything was unique. And my favorite part was his writing style. I feel like in his world that he built with, I feel like it was really original with, I feel like I still feel like the country Dara was or continent, whatever it is the actual main character in this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about he's writing. It's a historical I think it's what we said the whole time. It's a historical retelling of Dara.
It's a dry read, but it's fresh. I don't know if that makes sense, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I got to say. A 1 for me.
A 1 for me too. Very, very unique. Very, very good. Very good. Very good.
Very nice. Here's
right.
where we struggle.
So I think it took me until right now to put my finger on what just happened. Where did my I think I dragged and dropped my
hit backspace. Here we go. I'll press the buttons for Dakota because he's really not sure how Excel works.
I feel like you did that because I was hitting Control Z and it wasn't undoing, but you Control Z'd and it undid it.
I literally wasn't touching my keyboard.
All right.
Anyways, what? Tell me about your engaging storyline as a category, folks.
It took me
engaging storyline
until right this minute to decide why I'm rating this a half point through the engaging storyline. It's a personal one for sure. I think that I recognize that he is an incredible writer, that this is an incredible book, incredible saga. I think it's personally tough for me as a reader to follow a storyline that is not focused on one particular thing. One single, not that a story can't have multiple facets, right? Like you see in Bloodsworn, it's multiple people over this whole area, and they're all doing different things that are affecting the area at large.
I think to supplement your point, it's not just like Bloodsworn was 3 POVs. This is each POV chapter that we get has like 4 POVs in it. So you're getting like a whole those what do you call them? Like thought webs or whatever that you can do or whatever all into one. It's literally what it is all in one point.
Yeah, and so the lack of a dynamic storyline really made it tough to digest. Is maybe not the right word because the writing was digestible. It just made it drag. I think he intentionally wrote it the way he wrote it. We can both recognize that this is about Dara. It's not about any particular person, but that was a struggle. It made it struggle for me to be engaged from one moment to the next because that's part of what draws you in. The premise, the story, how we're getting from point A to point B is, I think, what inherently brings you in as a reader. So when you have something where you don't have a specific thing that's pulling you along, book 3 is a really good example. This is not book 3, this is book 4. But when you don't have a specific thing that's pulling you along, it's like we're getting lost in the sauce.
I feel like, I don't want to say this. There's different things that like influence this. One, when you have like, I don't know, say from like Thera's perspective. And then you've got like, oh, we have to talk about like when her husband was alive. Like his perspective was in Thera's chapters and also the shamans and also the uncles. and also the I don't know if it's the aunt or grandmother, like, everybody's got, like, a POV that they're, like, in this chapter, and then the problem is when things heat up, if your POV switches aren't at, like, an opportune time, and it makes sense to, like, when you have a peak thing happening, you have a really peak chapter, but things are still happening, and you switch it to another one to, like, kinda, like, keep the ebb and
Yeah,
flow or
you create
whatever.
like a mini
Sometimes
cliffhanger.
sometimes you kinda blue ball the reader when you have such a dramatic change. Like, I think the reason Brandon Sanderson does so well with his is because the changes are all like, say, like in one battle, you're going from, I'm not even gonna give an example, like from one character who's fighting, and then it's like, oh shit, this thing's happening. Then you're going to another side of the world where another battle's happening, or another side of the battle from a different perspective while things are like, it's still a lot of peak, but from different things. So you're
Yeah,
like,
and it's
you're
all
getting
inherently
tossed around
relevant
emotionally,
to the
but
same
yeah.
storyline.
Yeah.
And that's what made things really difficult. I could have easily followed Thera for the whole book, or I could have easily followed Firo for the whole book. I'm just the like where I was drawn in and where I was like where my attention where I was engaged by the storyline was not like the main focus of the book, right? Like Thera doing everything she did to create this uprising, first with Tokfall, then without Tokfall, and using his body as a bomb to like start her rebellion and start her uprising. Like all of those things really interesting to me. Firo doing everything he did to fight and win this war in a way that is like thematically identical to Cooney and Gin was like incredible and so entertaining and so engaging for me. But they were like teensy tiny nuggets of this whole saga
I
that they were
think
not like the main focus, you know?
so. I gave this also a half point here. I didn't want to. I want to give the full point. And I'm considering going back and giving the full point later on if I talk myself into it. Because I was engaged this whole book. I felt like even though this is the longest book, like once I hit a certain percentage, I was kind of flying through it. I think that pacing plays a role, and I didn't know whether to knock it in pacing or not because when things were happening and even like the build up I enjoyed, I just think too many things happened that didn't need to happen, which sounds lame because normally like you want more of the book. Like, oh, I want I want to see more. I want to see what these characters go through and blah blah. But we saw these characters go through such minute things that I didn't necessarily care about the minute things, even though there was character development for some of the small things. Because I just, at this point, I was like, I want to see what's going to happen
Yeah.
overall. And
And
it was such a heavy focus on just some
I
dumb
I think a big
things.
part of that is how much sunk investment we have in book 3. I think a big part of
Book three killed my drive to read four, and four picked it back up. I really enjoyed book four, but I think book three definitely like set the bar low.
honestly, we could have had book 3 and 4 could be combined and you could shave out a like the half of the like 75% of filler that book 3
You just
is,
one pace it.
and you could and it would be I think it would be so much
Or
cleaner.
or hear me out, make 3 a novella
Yeah.
because that's really all it needed to be, and then keep 4 the way exactly the way it was, and I feel like it would have been perfection. I'm still gonna give it the half point, but I do feel like
I already said
I enjoyed
I recognize that my half point is insanely personal, subjective. It's very much like this is a problem with me and my ability to follow a book where the storyline is not like a dynamic driven storyline. It's too broad sweeping for me, and there
see,
were
I
too
kinda
many
liked
things that were like I liked how broad it was, but it's what you said that there were too many little things that were like unimportant.
I feel like it comes down to, like, he was just having so much fun writing his world that he was just writing, like, the day-to-day. We don't need the day-to-day. A little day-to-day here, yeah, fine, give us Monday, Tuesday. I don't need the whole week. What are we doing here?
Yeah,
So I'm gonna keep my half point as well on that, and we'll talk about things further on where I think that I bolstered it more than you a little bit, but yeah, I'm giving the half point as well on the engaging storyline. I really had a good time with it, but I definitely think there was just some things like so let's get on.
agree.
Story end and wrap up though. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I think we gave it the same reluctant point. I
think we did too. The hard part is separating because we're rating this book, right? We're not rating the series as a whole yet. And we can have a little blurb on the series as a whole, but I think for this book, I think is tough to separate because
yeah.
it's the last one.
Right. Yeah, I gave it a point because he did a bang up job wrapping everything up and finishing everything that was open, but I wasn't necessarily satisfied with how things ended, which really I think for me ties back into the engaging storyline. Like we don't get conclusions that work for for a dynamic storyline because that's not the point. We get conclusions that work for Dara. We get to see where Dara is at the end of the saga. We get to see where Dara is at the end of the Dandelion Dynasty. The
Yeah.
Dandelion royal family has come and gone, left their mark on Dara, and we get to see what Dara looks like after that. And that's great, but we're inherently attached to characters and to things that are happening. And so I was really unsatisfied with how a lot of the characters were left, which feels so hard to say because we already said that like the character development was wrapped up like perfectly.
It's almost like we wanted more, not diversity, but we wanted more like wow factor and pizzazz, which sounds lame. I want more explosions and Michael Bay, but it's like these characters are perfectly rounded out, and the whole point was they didn't need that. The whole point was we didn't need all this extra, and it was like you said, the Dandelion Dynasty was over because the Laiku and the Dara was so intermixed by the end of the book that you couldn't they were even said in the policies when they were talking about like the Ukutasa, they were like, we don't know how to separate the land with these tax benefits because we can't tell who's Dara and who is Laiku at this point.
Yeah.
And then that was the whole point. I think as a story, perfectly wrapped up. No notes. This was a beautiful bow.
Yep.
You're not gonna have any questions at the end. And I think that this was peak storytelling from that standpoint. It was top tier. But from a reader's perspective, you're just bummed because you want a climax. You just
Yeah.
do.
I want to
And
see I want to see
it's just
Firo
this
like
whole
take the
book was
throne and I want to
this
see
whole book wasn't dull, but like even the big moments were subdued. Like we have this Firo is trying to get to Gia and doing all these crazy distractions and all the lights are off and he's flying on this thing and he jumps off in time and it explodes and he secretly goes in to assassinate Gia. And then he steps on like a stunning poison tack, falls on these tacks that stun him and he blows himself up and hurts Gia and she gets away with her thing. It's like it was a big moment and I'm not saying it didn't have impact. It just wasn't from a reader standpoint, it didn't have the oomph I was
yeah.
looking for. But I'm still giving the full point.
It's really hard to recognize that like the point of the point of these character stories wrapping up was to wrap up and not be like the climax of the book, but also as a
But
reader who's trying to follow like like a storyline, you want that. You want to see Firo like
but the thing
either
is, like you said, I think that this almost dips into engaging storyline where it's like we weren't necessarily as engaged in those spots that we should be, but from a story standpoint, like no notes. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Like I
Because the more I talk about it, the more I'm like rationalizing it. Because it was such like a perfect minus book three. We're talking about book four. So I'll just stick with book four. Book four was, for the most part, a rather perfect story. It all made perfect sense. Everything culminated to exactly where it needed to be. And you know what was lame? And I will talk about that was lame. The fall of the Laiku on Ukutit.
yeah,
They
the
they
Liuku,
ate the fucking magic mushrooms and went mad, and it toppled the
the
entire
Tolyusa
this
berries.
huge battle that could have happened. They just fucking did drugs until they just were tired of the drugs and went mad. It made perfect sense. But it just but then Gia like everything Gia planned. This is 3 books in the making that she did. This was like instilled in book 2 at the end. So it's just crazy. It's crazy. And
That's
I feel like
crazy.
I'm rambling, but at the same time, like, I don't know how else. I'm not good at describing my feelings. That's why we're doing this to get better.
Yeah, it's and this is a book, you know what I think the problem of I think the inherent problem here is that this book causes you to be deeply introspective because I'm looking at myself
It
as a reader.
does.
I'm looking at myself as a reader and I'm saying,
It's a good point.
I want something different. I want this to be pizzazz and explosions. And he's like writing this whole book to tell you that's not what you're getting. It's not what this is about. This
Not
story,
only that's not what you're getting, but that's not what you need.
yeah, it's not real. It's not what you need. It's not a real story because everything in this
That's a good point.
story made sense for how something would have actually happened. No plot armor, no like random justifications for why so and so gets out alive or why like it all works out in the end. It's like, nope, I'm writing a story to tell you about Dara, and everything that happens makes perfect sense in a realism way, which is like it makes you be introspective because it's like
And I
I
think
didn't want that. I wanted to see.
because it I think it works so well because it's almost like he's telling the story like it already happened. He's just telling you the facts. It's
Yeah,
not, hey, I made up the story that you're really going to enjoy. This is what happened, and I'm letting you know what happened. And I think that that plays a huge part in this because to be able to tell a story like that, this is true. I feel like we haven't read anything like this where it's just like
ever.
this happened. I'm literally just I would almost say ever. I never felt like I was reading a fake story. Like it kind of just felt like, hey, this like we talked about, this is a historical read. This already happened. It might be a fictional place,
I
but it felt like I'm reading.
remembering
Yeah, I think I don't know. That to me just is just an insane amount of work for a writer. Um, to be able to make, I feel like because we're talking in depth about it. Dakota's taking off his hoodie for those of you guys who aren't watching and are just listening, and so he can't hear me talk. Dakota's a bitch. Um,
what
but anyway, I feel like to make a reader feel like that, and especially, I mean, we're like I said, we're getting introspective on it, and so we're thinking about it a bit more than maybe somebody like the average reader who just read it and was like, "Hey, that was cool. I'm done." But I feel like this read is gonna make me kind of rethink not some things I've read before, but maybe have a different perspective on reads to come.
and while we're already here, it's so many writers can learn from this. If you want to make your readers think, make them think. Don't tell them to think. You don't need to
Make
tell
your
us.
characters do the themes and interact with the themes you're trying to tell us. Don't have them tell us.
Yeah. Your characters don't need to turn to the audience and tell them, here is what you need to do to be a better person. Characters just
Taxes are good for you.
Your characters just need to live out the themes and it'll make your readers think.
And even characters you like, give them things to not give the reader things to not like about them.
Yeah.
That
The,
makes them a human
the
ass
flaws
character.
were painfully real in all these characters to the point that they made me
They made them
they
real
made me
people.
angry. It made me
It's
upset.
mad.
It's like stop making bad decisions. But that's
You know
that's humanity.
who is your favorite character overall? I'm gonna say the same
Mm,
character off the top. I know it is.
is it? Are we Cooney?
Yep, it's
Dang.
Cooney
It's Cooney.
because he set the precedent for this series. He was wrong at times, but he set the. I feel like if he would have lived without the Laiku invasion, well, no, that's actually not true because he did for a couple of years and messed it up. He's still my favorite though.
He's
He's
my
like the joyful bandit. He's Robin Hood. He's literally
yeah.
Robin Hood of Dara.
He's the ultimate. Yeah, his story was the
So good.
deaths. All the deaths made me so angry.
His death was annoying as shit. I will say
That's
that.
what I'm
I did not
saying.
enjoy his death.
That's what I'm saying. But I think that was the point. His death made me mad.
He died for
Dira's
what? Let's all say it together. Mutage.
the Grace of Kings.
No. Well, no.
He died with the Grace of
What
Kings.
was the other one? The Sword of Courage and I don't remember the other one.
Didn't you just say it to me? Didn't you just text it to me?
There's 3. Sword of Courage, Grace of Kings, and something else. I didn't say 2. While you look that up, I'm moving on. World building and setting. This for me is my only note was honestly textbook perfection. It was not only immersive, and I've said this almost exactly verbatim. I think it was in book 2, might have been book 3, I don't remember. There wasn't a single scene where I couldn't figure out what was happening. Like I was in that scene
Oh yeah.
myself. Like there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's setting, I guess, but the world building itself too. There was just the way he described, like, oh, we got how did you figure this thing out? Or what is this invention? Well, this is exactly what it is. And he broke it down scientifically. Whether it was right or not, I don't fucking know. Did he zap people with static electricity from blankets? Sure. But it was explained really well. And I like that. Did you figure it out, Dakota?
No.
I'll be able to find it
Will
better
you?
than you.
Will you? Will you?
Is there a search button? Yep. I'm gonna find it. So you talk about world building while I search for this?
I wanted to find it before you.
Well, just don't.
All right. Yeah, the world building was really good. It was.
Found it. Found it. Fuck you.
I hate you so
It
much.
was the courage of brutes, the
Oh,
ambition of
I
nobles,
literally said that.
and the grace of kings.
I literally said that in one of the annotations I read. Well done. You copied me.
But you didn't say it out loud.
I
at
did.
all.
I read it on camera because
Hey,
Gia-
folks listening at home, Dakota's dumb and wrong at the same time. Can you imagine what that's like? Dakota can.
I
Sorry, Dakota, that
literally
was mean.
said
I apologize.
the people of Dara must not ever suffer again as they have before, not at the hands of great lords wielding the ambition of nobles, and not at the hands of invaders dedicated to the courage
Then
of
why did-
brutes.
But that's why. But why didn't you just bring that up then when I just asked what that was?
Because I didn't know what you were talking about because you didn't make it good enough.
It was literally what do we? Anyway, do you have anything else to say about world building? You just
No, I
complain
made a
about how
couple of
wrong you
notes
were?
about things that would have been fun to know more about, like the gods of the other nations, how the gods came there in general, why the gods don't make direct like changes anymore
I do have beef.
with Thorio.
I feel
and
like
Lutho.
kind of. I feel like the first two books, especially, kind of in the third, not at all in the fourth. The gods mattered.
Yeah,
They kind of weren't there in the
they
fourth.
didn't matter like
but-
at all.
But now that I think about this,
It thematically
okay, ready?
makes sense now. You're gonna.
Are you ready?
No, I'm
Yeah,
gonna say
correct.
I'm gonna take it away from you. It's
Don't
this
take it away from
whole.
me.
It's this whole progression throughout the four books because where the gods I'll let you say it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Speak into the speaker.
It's this whole progression throughout the four books because the theme for the gods is them ultimately learning to understand that humanity has grown up and doesn't need their interaction, their guidance as much anymore, that they have outgrown the gods. And so that's something we see that happens throughout the four books, because in the first book, they cause a lot of strife. They poke a lot of people. They push a lot of situations into happening. And by the fourth book, they come to understand that they're not really needed anymore and they're not causing anything to happen anymore. They're letting humans do it on their own. There's even some
I think
situations in the fourth
That
book.
No, shut your face. I
There's
think
even some situations. God.
I think that the gods in the fourth book aren't as present. One, because of like the Laiku and Dara they have their own version. They're the same gods in Laiku and Dara. They're the same, but they're from like past and present, fifth age and further. But I feel like the gods at the same time are realizing they can't figure out what G is doing. And they can't figure out what G is doing because she is ridding the world of their necessity. She is running a world that it doesn't matter who sits on the throne because the world can run itself. The world doesn't need gods because it can run itself. And I think that they figured that out kind of at the end with the gods like, what are we going to do? They're like kind of doing their own thing. And also the turtle god was like, hey, I'm back,
That was
everybody.
Lutho.
What's up? And they're like, hey, let's cause some strife. And he's like, nah, we're just immortal. We're good. I wanted more of like the gods talking. And I was a little bummed we didn't get more of the gods. But I
Yeah.
think it's because Gia, like, we got the gods POV from Gia and what she was doing. She goes, I'm ousting the need for anybody but the man, the system,
The will of the people.
the grace of kings.
Anyways, all that to
Yeah.
say, made sense. It would have been kind of fun to see more of like the gods.
Agreed.
Okay, moving on. Pacing and structure.
Yeah, I'm going to give this a point here. I felt this is the longest book, but I felt like book 3 I could just even up to like 90% and even further. I was like, I maybe had 5% at a time where I was like, wow, this is getting good. I can't wait. And then POV was just shouldn't be bummed. Book 4, I felt like the pacing was much better. It was longer, but I didn't feel like I was reading a longer book. This book felt shorter than book 3 to me. So I think it's a subjective pacing point for here, but I do feel like it was much more tolerable.
Yeah,
And the structure was better for me, so I give it a 1.
I talked myself out of giving this a half point and into giving this a whole point in an area that I'll explain later. But
Damn, blue balled.
I agree with you. My note block says that like the pacing and structure were choices. Like the way that it was intentionally meant to be a bit dry, and this whole thing was a massive investment. But like you
Are you
said,
saying that pacing and structure are purposeful for him or for everybody, all authors?
for him,
Okay.
he made there's times where I think authors don't mean to make their pacing be what it is. And it's like, oh, you didn't quite nail your pacing there. But he nailed his pacing. He did exactly, I think he got his, does that make sense? He went exactly the way he wanted you to experience it, is I think the way it came across. And it wasn't like, oh man, I really need to go back and improve my
See,
pacing in
I
that
feel
spot.
like he got it the first two books and he didn't in the third.
No. Yeah,
No,
I
I feel
agree.
like
I
he
agree.
tried something and it just did not, he couldn't figure out how he wanted to get the characters what they were, and it took long-winded ways to get a novella to 1,000 pages.
Yeah. But in this book, I agree. I give the
Oh, I
pacing.
thought you were talking overall. I'm sorry.
No. I mean,
I apologize.
yeah, I was talking about this book.
Nope, you're right.
This
You're
book
right. You're right. You're
moves.
right. You're right. You're right.
This book, yeah, give it a point.
No,
We've talked a lot,
I
and
feel
I've got things to say in other places, so I'll just leave it at that.
I would agree. We'll let the people decide. And it's weird because it's 1,000 pages, so it's like, how can the pacing be that good? And people are gonna have issues with the pacing, and I wouldn't argue them on it. But I just feel like you have to be I don't want to say a certain type of reader, but you have to be tolerable of like a certain type of storytelling to enjoy this story. And I think that if you don't enjoy it, I'm not going to fault you for it. But if you do enjoy it, I think we're going to be a little bit better of friends because you can appreciate subjectively what is happening as opposed to, but saying, do I want to say subjectively? I feel
You
like
can no, you want to say objectively. You
both.
can appreciate.
Objective, yeah, objectively, like this is clearly good fucking writing, but you can yeah, yeah, you're right. Okay, I want to say objectively. I don't know why I messed that up. It's really good fucking writing. It's good writing. Um, but if you don't like it, I would understand it. But I think if you did like it, we would get yeah, yeah, yeah. What Dakota's doing?
I have a hot take on
Ah,
this,
I'm so ready for a hot take.
and I've had this for a minute now, and I think that there are different levels, and this using the hot
Are we
take.
gonna fight?
No, using the hot take for this
Damn, I want
book
to fight.
is probably a bit more extreme, but I think that you're not at a you are probably not at a place to read books, sprawling sci-fi or fantasy books that are really long and really wordy, if you can't handle pacing that is fluid. Because I think that there is an essence of that in all of these tomes, if you will, that you have to learn how to digest as a mature reader. And I'm specifically talking about like this is the extreme, but there's also like Brandon Sanderson books or like Bloodsworn, where these books have really expository moments where they're focused on telling you information and you're getting a big info dump and it's not necessarily interesting, and you have to recognize that objectively what's happening is good writing. It's just not entertaining you with pizzazz and explosions.
I think that comes down to like you have to realize that like if you're gonna read this book, you're not reading the formula that's being dumped in the 2015 to 2025 era. You're not getting that formula of
Yeah.
writing. And I think it's jarring. The first read, I was like, wow, this is dry. I like it because I've read some heavier stuff. Like comparably lengthwise, we'll talk Stormlight. There's a lot of information in Stormlight, but people argue that like it's too long. And I could see points that it is. But this book, I feel like it's drier than Stormlight, but everything was like everything mattered because, like we said before, you're reading a historical take. It matters what happens before. And that was one of the themes of the whole book. And we'll get to themes is it's what happens before, what you do during time, but more importantly, how history sees you in the future is what drives a lot of these characters. But I think that matters with the writing too, and how you view the books overall is, you view the books individually, but overall, how was the series? How am I, the reader, going to view this book's history over the four books? And it's
Yeah.
overwhelmingly positive for me. Even though I didn't like book 3, this book series, I was like, this is
And that's what I'm saying. You can say, man, this kind of book's probably
just
not for
affirming
me.
you.
you can say, man, this kind of book's probably not for me, while still recognizing that it is objectively written well. You can say, this does not do enough to grip my
Speaking
2025
of
attention span.
Speaking of hot takes, I feel like people can't differentiate between a good book and what people are telling you that it is a good book. In the sense that you can't sit there by yourself and be like, wow, this was good writing. I really enjoyed this because objectively it was good. Or I didn't enjoy this, but I recognize that this was objectively good. It's either I hated this was garbage, like this wasn't good writing because blah 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 blah. Or okay, I'm gonna say, and this is gonna be controversial too. Damn, I apologize, folks. Fourth Wing, it's okay. It relies so heavily on
Common tropes.
like tropes that are popular right now, especially Iron Flame. I haven't read Onyx Storm yet, but it's like it's okay writing. It's not necessarily bad, but it gets worse in book 2 because it's trying to draw in readers with tropes rather than draw in readers with actual content that I guess makes sense in the setting that it's placed in. So pros, I guess, I don't know what I'm trying to say in that. Basically, people are like, because it's TikTok positive. It's like this is so good. Like everybody's got to read this. This is one of those series that like TikTok is not necessarily going to promote because it's this long. People aren't going to read it, and you're missing out. This is peak writing, and even if you like really good books, if you're not into long books, like very wordy, you're not gonna like the series, which sucks because you're gonna miss out on some really good writing.
Right.
And I'll talk about this in our final category, rereadability. Um, I think this is a series that if you consider yourself a high fantasy reader, you have to read this series. Even if like it's not your favorite, you have to read the series because this is gonna give you some perspective on
It's going to grow you as a
anything to
reader.
come after. It really is.
It's going to grow you as a reader. Damn, we're going to have to make a note for this year of like, I think this book has grown me as a reader more
This
than
makes me feel controversial just about myself because of how I felt about reading it. It's one of those things where I finished the book and I was like, I don't know. But like thinking about it for a day or two, it grew on me so much more because I reflected on not even what I was taught, but I was like, it felt like I was being taught. It just did. And I feel like I learned a lot as a reader, as a person. And for real though, it makes you question things that like you normally like wouldn't question when coming across just a fantasy book that you're reading. And they do it in such a way with all 4 books that it makes sense that there are these, I don't remember the 4 off the top of my head. There's the Moralist, the Fluxus, the
incentivists.
Incentivists, and somebody else.
I don't remember either.
And but they all have different views on like the same topics. But I feel like, ooh, I wonder if we looked back, if each book had more of like, this is the Moralist book, this was the Fluxus book.
Dang.
Oh, I don't even want to think about that. That's too deep. It's
That's
too deep,
I
people.
can't handle it. You got me distracted off you tangented off my tangent, but my tangent was that
I honestly don't even remember what I'm talking about. I just like I keep thinking about this book and there's more to it.
I just keep talking and talking.
Somebody
All
stop
I was
me.
trying to say is that people complain to me that books that I think do more to pander to the reader are like boring and slow and too long, like a Sanderson book, for example. And I think that this book is like the farthest extreme where he's like, listen, I'm going to write
He's an
things that you
extremist.
need to hear, and none of this is to make you happy. I'm writing it because this is the story, and this is...
He's writing it as it is, not as like it should be. He's
Right.
writing this as something that already happened. He's not, there's no personality, there's no writer personality to it because he's writing it as like, hey, this is what happened and I'm just letting you know. And if you don't like it,
He's like,
don't
sucks
give
for
a
you.
fuck.
He's like, that's really rough for you that you don't like it, but that's what happened.
Anyways, yeah. And I think that, I don't know, I am just, the more I think about this book, the more positive I am about the way it was presented to us. Because we feel things, and that's the whole point of like some of these books is the emotional impact.
Almost makes me want to just give it a 10 because of how much we can't stop talking about it. Almost.
Emotional impact, though, the way we're talking about it is, it's a
I'm
clear one for
emotional.
me. I'm
I'm
emotional, and I
emotional
will.
about
The
this
only
book.
point I will bring up again is the ending when Thera reunites with Zomi. I was because I wanted that more than anything in this book. I was like, this has to happen. Like, I really hope they reunite. And then they were like, Thera's ill, and this was back when she was on
I
in
don't even
Laiku,
remember.
like
I
the
don't even
old
remember
like
the Liuku continent. I don't even remember.
it changed so many times. I'm just gonna call it Laiku. Um, she's like, they're ill. I'm like, fuck, she's gonna die for nothing. And like, she reunited the continent, whatever. Fuck that. I don't care. She's gonna die there. And like, it made sense for her character, but then she's like, she pulled out the hacksaw ridge. She's like, God, give me, just let me get one more. And then she got one more. And okay, but first off, she
But her
also
one more was
survived
like a year-long voyage
a
across the
year-long
ocean.
voyage, but she made it. And I was at work when I read this. I teared up a little bit because it's just, I feel like that meant out of anything, that was the only thing the author was like, I have to make this happen. Everything else that matters, it just is what it is. It's history. And even if it was a fib and it didn't really happen, I'm glad that we got to read it.
Same. There's not much more that I have to say. Emotional impact I could talk about forever, but we're clearly emotionally impacted by this book.
So emotionally impacted.
All right, writing style and prose.
So I'm changing.
No,
I'm changing my vote.
loser.
Why am I a loser?
Because you're weak. You're
I'll,
weak-willed.
I'll read my notes and then my explanation afterwards. So I wrote, for sure 0.5, close to a 1 question mark, but I don't know if I can give it. Love the unique historical take on telling the story, but 4 books and almost 1,000 pages each. Not sure if most readers could stomach that. The reason I'm giving it the full point is because that's looking at this overall. My actual thoughts about this book, writing style and prose, is perfection. I feel like I didn't necessarily feel the prose was lacking in this at all. I felt like the prose was as it was the rest of this whole series. It was just on. I felt like I'm reading something that already happened. I'm not reading something fictional. This is a real life thing that I'm reading a take on. Um, and the writing style was where I was a little bit questionable about because it's like, God, why do we have to go through all this stuff? Why do we have to read this? But having it being the 4th book, everything culminated at the end to just this, even though it could have been a little bit lackluster in terms of like pizzazz, it just made so much sense. Everything was well rounded to a T. And I think this deserves the full point for me. So I don't know much if I have much to say besides that, but I will give that the full point.
All right, I'm going to read you my notes now. I said, okay,
Read
this
me your
is
notes.
another one for debate. I think I might not love the writing style, or maybe it got old after a couple books. The prose is incredible. He's an amazing writer, but the style, I hate that you just did that, but the style, the historical retelling got dry for me. And then I wrote, is that the pacing or the writing style? I think it might be the writing style, so perhaps I dock a point here and not
Which
pacing.
book are you objectively on this book, or are you accidentally bleeding into the other books?
Both, but not in the way
you're voting this book.
Yeah, I'm bleeding from a result of being 3,000 pages deep, not like looking at this as like a part of the whole. It's the bleed over is like, man, what makes this even more dry is that I'm already into this 3,000 pages.
I feel like that was fair 30% in, but I feel like that perspective isn't fair for this book as a whole. Because I will say that you could feel that way up to 30% because you got teed up poorly for the 30%, right? But I feel like the rest of the book stood on its own. And I feel like that even though it was long, I felt like I read this book much faster. Not because I wanted to I did want to get this book done because I was personally just like, I just wanted to see where the story ended. But
Yeah.
also, I feel like I read it faster because it was just genuinely better in pacing wise.
Which is why I gave it a full point in pacing and docked a point for the writing style because it was genuinely better in pacing. And I'm gonna do the thing. The thing is that it's a subjective half point. I think
That's fair.
objectively, like we said, he did what he wanted to do. He set out to tell this story, he told the story. He's a good storyteller. He's a good writer. I think that subjectively, the writing style, it was rough for me. In the same way that subjectively the storyline was rough for me. Those
It's
two things are personal opinion points, and I recognize what he did and how I grew as a reader engaging with this content, but it was still difficult.
it's interesting to see because I'm not like not persuading or anything. Like I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think that it's interesting that I feel like he wrote this not giving a fuck what the reader thought. He's just like, this is
Yeah,
what
maybe that's
happened,
the
bro.
secret.
No, but think about it. Like, if he wrote this this is what happened, it doesn't matter what you think as the reader because this is what happened. This is my. But okay, but think about this. Think about this as the theme for the whole book, where Dara, all of their stories are written down, right? And they're written down so they're told exactly the way that they're told. There's like interpretation later on because you don't know like the inflection of how they were talking. But the Laiku, nothing's written down. It's all
Right.
like orated and everything like that. And this series itself is written as the culmination. Like, it doesn't matter what you think. This is what happened. And now we're talking about it, but we also read it first, right? So it's like, I mean, you listen to it, I guess, too. But
They're
still,
both.
I don't know. I feel like this was such a dynamic story in that sense where it was like the themes are shown outside of the actual story itself, or at least some of the premise. But that does lead us to meaningful themes of death. I put as my notes big juicy themes busting at the seams. I don't have much to elaborate besides that.
Can you explain?
I will explain
When you say
with listen, listen, listen. Don't you say it. Don't you say it. I will say this book specifically, if you had to pick one word, it would be the mutage. It's the greater good over any other familial, personal, any sort of feelings. It's the greater good over what matters to you most.
yeah,
And that was a culmination of honestly Gia's overarching theme. Gia was the master fucking bitch of us all. And I hate her and her perfection. But yeah, I think that a lot of the themes, even from the first book, there's a couple of small themes, but even from 2 and 3, you could see things that the character said, even characters that didn't have anything to do with book 1 or 2, like their children and stuff like that, had brought up things that was like, all right, this is, you're all these books are bleeding into one another purposefully.
yeah. I didn't take nearly enough notes, and I'm not gonna spend another hour.
You only said top tier.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. No, I meant that like I could have taken notes and tracked
I know what
each
you're saying.
theme, and we could spend an hour going through this. But we're just here to tell you on RSQ that the themes in this book are amazing.
Yeah, if you're gonna read this series for anything, you're gonna read it for. If you had to narrow it down to 3 out of our 10 categories, it's character development, world building, and themes.
100%. No,
And
no
there's no
debate.
debate. We said no debate at the same time. We should kiss. Anyway. Last category, which I think after all of the glowing up we did of this series, readability and lasting impact. Lasting impact,
Very clear that it has a lasting impact.
I feel very good about this series, and if I come across friends that were really into high fantasy and really into reading, I'm going to recommend the series to them. This is not like a novice series. This is not even like oh yeah, I like reading fantasy series. This is like, you can invest some time and thoughts and feelings, both positive and negative, into the series. And you need to know that going into it, that it's going to be something like you haven't read before. Would I reread it? No. It was very long. It was dry. And I really liked what I learned from it. But it's not something I need to reread again. And that just is what it is.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Dakota?
I was doing math to get our total average over all of the 4 books, but I agree with everything you said. The lasting impact, I mean, if you can't tell from how much we've spoken in this whole video that we are impacted by this book and that it's like grown us as readers, then you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
Lasting impact is like, I could actually give this one bonus points in lasting impact.
Speaking of bonus points, I made a note, and I'm going to make this a new thing going forward.
You said this is our last one.
Yeah. It's called the PowerPoint.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I think that this series excels
Oh
in
my gosh.
certain
PowerPoint, Excel, Words, documents.
it has words that document things into my future reading. Um, I think that the series as a whole does so many fantastic things. So I won't necessarily give the PowerPoint to this book in general, but introducing it now, my PowerPoint will be I feel so strongly about a point that I will give it beyond 1 point, and I can give it 2 points if I feel like it is just absolutely bananas. Or if I initially gave it a 0.5 and you know what? That doesn't actually make sense. If I give it a 1, I think it should be a 2. No, like, just I cannot be convinced otherwise. It's gonna be a 2. I can only do it in one
Yeah.
category per book. The reason I'm introducing it now is I was gonna give it someone in this book, but I think when we talk about the series overall shortly, I will give it to the series overall because I think it deserves the extra point overall.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if you're not giving a PowerPoint to this book, I don't know what book you'd give a PowerPoint to.
1. Book 1, easily. If you think about how we got here, the foundation of book 1 and the themes that built us to where we are. Maybe book 2
It's
was a
crazy
little bit
that
more
you're
dynamic in the themes, but I feel like book 1 set us up so perfectly. What are we at? Well, okay, hold on. Let's add up all of our scores for all the books so
Yeah, do you want
far
the average? The
of
average of
everything so
all of
far.
our you want the average of all of our averages?
Uh, I was gonna do the average of all my scores, and then I was gonna give it a
Well,
fucking
I'll give you the
bolster.
RSQ average.
What's the RSQ average? Tell me.
I'm not there yet.
Give me the knowledge.
We gave book 3 a 6.75. So that makes it a average of we gave this an 8.3. RSQ
I
8.3.
RSQ 8.3. Okay, so my scores, at least looking at it, was 8.5, 9.5, 6.5, 9.5. How did you do the function of the average?
You could
Tell me.
technically add up the 4 numbers and divide by 4, but I just used Google AI.
I don't have I don't have a calculator here. I
Would you like
apologize,
me
chat.
would you like me to give you your
No,
average?
hold on.
Give me your numbers. Give me your numbers.
Let Dakota talk about something dumb real quick,
Oh
and
my gosh.
I'll do the
I
average.
already
I'll
had
do
it
the
up.
math. I thought he had some sort of dumb
You could do
like
it in Excel
Excel
too.
thing.
Control click. You can control click each of your
I'm
total.
literally not even listening.
I hate you. You can control click each of your final scores and it'll tell you the sum in the bottom right. And then you can just divide that by 4. Or you could hit analyze this data and tell it
Okay.
divide by
So
4.
the average is 8.5. I'm gonna give a PowerPoint to the series overall.
All that to give it 0.2 more than all that to get your average, which is 0.2 higher than my average.
No. My personal
Yes.
opinion, not the RSQ, because I feel like you said the personal or RSQ is 8.3.
Yeah. My personal is probably
I'm giving the
8.1.
series you what?
Go ahead. You're giving this series a 9.5 with your PowerPoint?
No. I think this series is a solid 9 out of 10. And I think that this series overall not only deserves it, but I think it deserves your patience as a reader. And I think that this recommendation wise, this is a huge conditional recommendation. I feel like if you are not ready for a slow, heavily thematic, character developing, slow burn story, this is not going to be for you. But if you're willing to put in the work to read this series, I feel like you're going to be really rewarded.
It'll
at the end.
100% grow you as a reader. I'll agree. I agree that this series is a solid 9. 9 out of 10.
Solid 9.
And that if you take the time to work through all 4 books, you will come out on the other side a better reader than you entered in.
And I think that
guaranteed.
If you were going to be someone who's just like, I don't know if I can do it, read the first 2 books and stop. I feel like you could, if you wanted and not have full conclusion, stop there and be at a good spot until you wanted to come back. You'll forget things.
Yeah.
But I feel like
or honestly,
book 3 was
take a break.
tough. Book 3 was tough. We read books in between.
I was explaining that tonight to a buddy who I was telling that we finished, and I was like, we just needed to slow down. We need to read these slower, which is tough because we would have forgotten things. Like there were things that I was remembering about the Battle of Zafin Gulf in this book that I forgot in book 3. Like Moda being one of the soldiers on the ship in the Battle of Zafin Gulf in book 2, who's like,
Yeah.
why is it, are our deaths going to mean anything? And his captain's like, no. And then I totally forgot that he was the soldier that
And
asked that.
and that's another thing that is so good about the series is everything that is said matters. There's not a single line that is a throwaway. And
Yeah.
that's crazy writing. Crazy writing. I think that this series deserves much more reading by people who think themselves um astute readers and they don't just, oh, I'm not just reading because it's popular and blah blah. I think if you genuinely enjoy reading, this is going to be genuinely enjoy reading high fantasy reading, this is going to be something you could potentially really enjoy. And I think that even if you don't necessarily enjoy the story, you're going to objectively be like, wow, this is actually fantastic writing in and of itself. Overall, I'm super happy, and I was pissed at Dakota when he first. You can go back to our wheel spin video when he put it on. He was like, "Oh, I don't know nothing about it. It sounds good." And then I was like, "How long is it?" He goes, "I don't know." And it's 4 books and almost 4,000 pages. Like, you are a piece of shit, and I'm so upset at you. I'm
You
still
just need to
upset at Dakota.
appreciate me.
I'm never gonna get over that. But it was
You
really
need to
fantastic writing.
appreciate me because I changed your life by bringing you books that you need to read.
I'm under duress.
All right.
But yeah, so we're gonna slap the end of this book up. This review's done. We've talked too much. We're done. We're done with
We're
y'all.
landing the plane.
Stop watching us. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. We gave this last book an 8.75 out of 10, and I think we gave this an objective, and by objective I mean subjective, because I'm just an idiot. Score of 9 out of 10 series overall, even with the third book being straight up hot
No,
cross buns.
I would say it's an objective 9 out of 10. I would say we step back and we see
You're right. You're right.
that this
You're right.
this is objectively good writing. We have a
And if
minor
you
complaint,
and
but
if you've read this book too, or the series, like, let's chat, because I want to talk to somebody who else has read this series, because it's not controversial, but I feel like it is. Like,
yeah,
we need to talk about this book together, and I really want to chat more. And we'll tag on TikTok and Instagram the creator that initially we saw this series from. And maybe we'll chat with them if they want to. And if not, then it is what it is. But I think it'd be fun to do. Because this was just a crazy pull that I feel like you pulled. I feel like we're not going to get a series that changes like this one for a while.
you're welcome.
But other than that, one other thing I want to bring up is our next read. Our next read is going to be Vile 2. Vile is a indie book that we read by Carl Gerardo. What month did we do this? We did in June.
Yep.
June was our indie month, and he came out with his second book this past month, sometime in November. And he sent us a copy for free, which was absolutely fantastic. I also bought it on Kindle Unlimited, 1, to support the author, but 2, so I could read all that work. And really excited to get into this, about that far in already. And I'm really enjoying it. We really liked book 1. I don't remember what score we gave it, but overall, I remember really enjoying it. And I remember lasting impact being a huge thing because of the way the vial system worked was unique compared to how other life-giving serums work. But anyway, we're gonna power through this. We got some fun, exciting things coming up. But anyway, thanks for watching our longest video.
Probably. It's close.
Probably our longest video. I want to talk about it more, but we're not going to.
Yeah,
For your
we can
sake.
keep going.
Yeah, we'll talk about it off camera. But if you want to talk about it on camera, let us know. Anyway, we will chat with you guys next time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being with our friends and the Dandelion Dynasty. We will see you guys in our next videos coming up shortly. All right, let's go out.